Hey guys, hello and welcome to Naveed for Speed. This car right here is the BYD Seal, and in today's video I'm going to attempt to answer some interesting questions about this car. So the first question that you might be wondering is, what is BYD? Well, BYD is the largest car manufacturer that you've never heard of. The company started in 1995 and they produce batteries, and even today they still make batteries for smartphones, and over half the iPads in the world contain batteries made by BYD. But it was early in the 2000s that they decided to go into vehicle manufacturing, and they entered the UK market only last year in March, and 1 year later they have released 3 cars here in the UK. The growth is spectacular. They produced and delivered over 3 million vehicles last year. BYD is definitely a car company that you should take note of. They are in the top 10 largest companies in the world and have actually overtaken big companies like Toyota and Tesla. So what is it? Well, the BYD Seal is a fully electric saloon car. It's basically a rival to the Tesla Model 3, and BYD aren't afraid to admit that. But because it's a rival to the Tesla Model 3, it also means that it's a rival to other cars like the BMW i4 and the Polestar 2, which offer a bit more of a premium feel. And BYD have certainly decided to try and match that premium feel, which I'll talk about when we show you the interior of this car. So what does it look like? Well, to my eyes, it looks a lot like a Tesla Model 3, except slightly more premium. For example, on this bonnet, you get this really cool muscular feature which makes the car look so good. At the front, you get the BYD logo. And as we move towards the side of the car, you can see these 19-inch alloy wheels which contrast this beautiful paintwork. This paintwork is an optional extra and costs, I think it's roughly around £1,000. You get a lot of gloss black features throughout the car, particularly these door handles which are really cool. They've got the BYD logo on the top of them as they come out when you need to access the car. As we move towards the back of the car, you can see it says BYD Seal. Now BYD have basically listened to customer feedback and they've decided to scrap the full name on the back of the car, which is Build Your Dream. That is the name of the company. But a lot of customers didn't like that, so BYD have decided to leave it to just BYD at the back. But this particular model, because it's the all-wheel drive version and it does 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds, that's exactly what they've written here, 3.8S. So that basically shows that this is the more faster version of the BYD Seal. There is a rear-wheel drive version which has slightly longer range, so that's basically what you're compromising. You're compromising range for performance. But we'll get into that when we take this car out for the drive. And the last feature that I want to mention is this sort of rear diffuser part here, which just adds a bit more aggressiveness to the car. When you get inside the BYD Seal, you definitely get a sense of that premium feel from the materials that you have around the car. You've got obviously contrasting stitched leather, you've got Alcantara leather, you've got a load of plastics all over the car, but it's all done in a really nice way. And you might have noticed the blue interior of this car. That's an option that you can choose, but it doesn't cost any more than the black leather that you can get. And the seats are really quite comfortable. I feel like these are some of the most comfortable seats that I've experienced in a long time. They hug you quite well and they just sort of cradle you, which is really good. Again, when I take the car out on a drive, I'll see exactly how that feels. One thing that you definitely do notice massively is this massive panoramic roof that you get above you. It lets loads of light in, but it also doesn't expose you too much to the elements, which is really good. You get the massive infotainment screen here as well, which does the typical BYD gimmick, which is when you press the button, it changes from horizontal to vertical. How useful that is, I'm sure it's useful when you're using the maps and you want to see the road up ahead, but in general I like to keep it horizontal so that I can get good visibility on the road. It doesn't impede much visibility, but I don't know, I just think it looks a bit better like this. Otherwise, the interior of this car is it is a breath of fresh air. It's slightly different from what I'm used to, and I'm sure it'll translate to a really good driving experience. So what is it like to drive? Well, this is my first driving impressions of the car. Of course, I haven't had the car for a long time, so I'm not able to go into certain details about this car, but I will try and tell you exactly what my first impressions of the car are like. And my very first impression is it's quite quick off the line. As soon as you press your foot on the accelerator, it throws you back and the car just pushes forward. Now, the reason why I'm feeling that effect so much is because I just got out of a BYD Dolphin earlier, and the Dolphin, in comparison to this, is very, it's very sluggish. Obviously, it's not as fast as this. This car has an 82.5 kilowatt hour battery, so it does have a lot of power. And of course, that 0 to 60 time of 3.8 seconds, you can definitely feel it just when you are randomly setting off from a junction, or when you're setting off from standstill, from a stop like I did. Otherwise, the seats and the rest of the car it feels a bit comfortable. I'm going over some bumps and I'm going over them with quite ease. I was a bit hesitant before driving this car because, of course, it is Chinese, and Chinese brands have notoriously not had good refinement. But I think with the BYD Seal, BYD have decided to focus more on refinement and basically try to offer a more premium car. I suppose that's one way that they are going to try and compete with Tesla. But when it comes to offering a more premium car, now you're competing with the likes of Polestar and you're competing with the likes of BMW. Polestar felt a bit more harsh in the way that it handled, the way that it rode on the road. You could feel more bumps in the road, and it felt a bit awkward. Whereas this BYD, I think the seats have they should take a lot of credit in how comfortable it is. I'm so surprised with the seats. I know I keep mentioning those seats. So I will have to mention charging with this car as well. So it is slightly behind its competitors when it comes to charging, because it only offers 150 kilowatt charging. But 150 kilowatt is still more than enough in this country, because most rapid chargers will charge at that rate. There are some that charge at a higher rate, and cars like for example, the Polestar charges are over 200 kilowatts. But it still means that you can get a 10% to 80% charge in around half an hour. And what more can you ask for? With performance like this, it is such a interesting car. Everything feels a bit more refined than the Dolphin that I just had. So I think my first impressions of BYD as a company were a little bit skeptical, but getting into this car, it feels so good. Now, I know I did mention that this car has a range of around, I think it's around 300 and in the low 300s. The range of this car is slightly less than the rear-wheel drive version, and that is obviously because that car isn't as fast as this car. So you can choose what to prioritize. If you get this all-wheel drive version, you want to prioritize speed and acceleration, and if you want the rear-wheel drive version, you are prioritizing that extra range. For me personally, I feel like with electric cars and that instant torque that you get, you should go for the longer range version, just so you have that peace of mind that you can go that little bit further. And the cars are going to accelerate around the city, in stop-start traffic, around traffic. They're going to accelerate pretty well anyway. When it comes to how this car feels on the road, I think now that I'm getting a bit more up to speed, I'm feeling still as comfortable as I was, and I think that's in part thanks to the battery technology that this car has. So BYD have developed the Blade battery, is what they call it. So it is incorporated in the body of the car, in the chassis of the car. So that also increases the rigidity of the car. So it means that when you're driving it a bit more dynamically, you won't have any trouble in body flex, and you can get grip when you need it. I think with all that put together, and with the growth that BYD have had, BYD is definitely a car company that you cannot ignore. And if you haven't heard of it, well, you definitely will, because it took them 13 years to sell their first 1 million vehicles. And then after that, it took them only 1 year to sell the second million. And then it took them 6 months to sell the third million. So this is a car company that is growing at an incredible rate. And I think they've definitely taken over the UK. You'll see some of their buses around the UK as well. I think if that's what they can achieve in the amount of time that they've done so far, I'm looking forward to seeing what they've got next. But I hope that I can get another BYD Seal for another project that I want to try and do later this year. So stay tuned to my channel if you want to see more, well, if you want to see more car content, but also if you want to see more BYD content. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a like, make sure you comment, let me know what you think of this car company, let me know what you think of electric cars in general. I know a lot of people aren't big fans of electric cars, so let me know what you think of this new technology. And of course, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you on the next video.